Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show, our second episode of Midnight Makgeolli. Now, you may be wondering why this show is not happening at midnight today, and I think that brings us to our first point, which is talking about when we are. So, as many of you in Korea would know, and probably few of you outside, COVID restrictions just changed here. So we now can be open, restaurants can be open past 10 p.m., which means these two wonderful individuals now are open much later and can no longer film in the evening. So we are coming to you live today, Sunday morning.
It might change. Though.
Might change.
Today's like this.
Yeah, today's like this. This may be the new time, but good morning, everyone. So why don't we start out, everyone go around and just let's share a little bit of what's new with us since we last came.
Do you want to go first, Valentin?
Sure. Like you just said, the COVID restriction has finally been down in Korea, so we're very happy to, run our businesses as normal again, and also personally, like being able to go out again and hang out with friends after 10 p.m. Last week also, so some of the district, they were organizing a few healing concert for Corona, and we went to one free event last week, and I'm going to another one later today actually, like some opera, classic music.
Nice.
For free. Like you just apply on the Kakao, the Korean messenger, and we got tickets for that. So in Sejong University we had a really nice opera with it was three singers. Singing in Italian, those.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's funny to see Korean singing in Italian, but it was
It's
really
different,
really
isn't
good.
it?
Yeah,
That was great. Nice.
it was good. So that's something that I used to really like doing in Korea, is attending those cultural events, and
Definitely.
it's really good to finally be able to go again. So today again, later I'll go to another one, and tonight I hope we can go to the theater to watch Dunes.
Ooh,
I
yeah.
haven't watched it yet, and now I've heard that we can eat popcorn again
Alright.
Ooh,
because it was banned during the
popcorn's back.
popcorn's
Alright.
back apparently. We couldn't eat any popcorn in
Yeah.
the theater before.
Were you allowed to drink as well, or not? Or just only food? Was bad?
I guess if they allow popcorn,
Yeah.
drink should be allowed too.
We can sit next to each other again in the theater.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, no, we
Yeah.
can. Yeah, it's all coming back to normal.
I haven't been in 2 years. So it's crazy.
Are you gonna catch it in IMAX if you can?
No, whatever is closest
Oh.
to my home.
I was bummed. We wanted to see Dune. I wanted to go to Yongsan, the big largest IMAX,
Yeah.
and then it was only on that screen for a week, and then Eternals came out and bumped it, so we missed the boat. Yeah. What about you, Lewis?
Since the last show, I've been back to the UK and back to Korea. It was a short visit for my grandma's 90th birthday, so that was nice, but also pretty stressful, because to get back into Korea, you need a negative test. So,
Yeah.
and literally, the time I landed in the UK, there was 50,000 cases a day. So I was just dodging Corona like a bullet. But no, it was nice to see family, see my grandma and everything. So I really enjoyed it. And
How is Grandma Hamilton?
she's good. She's good. Yeah. No, stronger than me, I would say.
Yeah.
No, but as Valentin said, it's nice to be back. That everything's opened up again now. We're able to stay open after 10, and people, we're allowed groups in the restaurant now, and it's good. Getting
Nice.
back to normal. Just being able to go out, we close and not have to go straight home. Can actually just go to a late restaurant and have some drink and food.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's normality, a little bit of normality for a while. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll pretend that prior to recording you weren't just complaining about having to go places after.
Oh yeah. Saying that I wanted to go home and rest last night, but my
No, I
wife.
know what you mean. No, it's nice having the option, right? That you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
actually choose to do something other than
Yeah.
just go straight home.
But then
Especially as a business owner, it must be hard to
Yeah.
work and then you have to just go home. Nothing's
It's
open.
because I have to come here for 8 o'clock because of you guys.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why.
That's true. That's true.
How about yourself? Have you been?
Yeah,
busy?
for me, my wife and I just moved in to a new place. So we moved house this last week, and we actually bought our first place here in Seoul, and we were remodeling for the last 25 days. So since we last recorded, it's been it feels like a year has passed.
Right.
I've gained a significant amount of weight. My skin is bad. It's basically been awful. But the rewards of now being in a new place that's been remodeled have been well worth it. So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah.
I have to ask, your grandma's last name is not Hamilton, right?
No, Asbridge. Why?
I was making a Lewis Hamilton joke, but you just went with it. I'm like, oh my god, did I just guess his grandma's name correctly? All right. And everyone might notice we do not have a Makgeolli today. Unfortunately, it just stems from the time. Actually, not really the time. I think all of us would have been fine having a little Makgeolli in the morning, but most of us have to drive somewhere
It
after
would be the
this.
real current experience. So, like a lot of like older people,
True.
they start drinking. I don't know if they start drinking in the morning or if it's like they're been up all night.
Yeah, I don't think
You know,
they
but you
stop.
see them like in front of convenience store in the morning sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if they starting and finishing. I don't
I
know.
don't think they've ever stopped, to be honest.
Maybe in the future we'll have a street segment. We'll go to a convenience store and interview.
That'd be
언제
good.
시작? When did you start drinking? But great, let's move straight into our first segment. Our first segment today is going to be talking about work and business. And I think it would be a good opportunity for us to share a bit about what we all do here and kind of how our situations are set up and maybe how that compares to the kind of typical foreigner in Korea work experience and how we kind of view our situation from a pros and cons standpoint. So why don't we just go down the line here, Valentin? You want to kick us off and tell us a bit about your situation and how you think it compares to the typical foreigner experience in Korea?
Sure. So for me, actually, I didn't really have much choice when I came to Korea because most foreigners who actually come to Korea, you know, the easy job is like being an English teacher, but you cannot be an English teacher if you're not a native speaker, right? You know, even though you've studied for a long time and you prove like whatever paper you prove like how good your English is, it's not working at all. Like, and I actually tried, it didn't work, and then I tried to find some like French teaching positions. It was also really hard, so I started off like doing some part-times. I mean, like teaching privately and also
Legally, of course.
sorry, what?
Legally, of course.
Legally, of course. Yeah. That's the thing in Korea. It's not very legal, even for Koreans.
Yeah.
It's not very legal to do private teaching because the government don't support that.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, but in the end, yeah, I had to find a job in a company if I wanted to stay for a longer time in Korea. I had no choice but to find a job in the company to get the working visa. So I had no choice but to I sent a bunch of applications. So I work in IT and like software development. And yeah, luckily I found one job, and after that I moved to a few different companies, but always in the tech, like web development and software development field. And now I'm still working in a company. I've been in that company for a long time now, actually. Like I reached 4 years, which is pretty good in Korea. Before I used to change a job every year because I was not really happy because Korean working culture is really hard and intense. A lot of people know that already, but it's true. It's really intense, and you need some time to get used to it, like the long hours and like the hierarchy things. It's really hard, but you get used to it. I mean, I'm used to it now, and I think sometimes I'm actually more Korean than some Koreans.
Right. I've noticed that.
So I'm very happy with that. I don't think I would ever had found this kind of job back in Switzerland because, as you know, like Korea, the technology is well developed compared to European or like Western countries. My job is really unique. I say I'm a software like web developer, but it's a little bit more than that. We do like some like media art experience. It's really hard to explain, but anyway, it's something that I wouldn't have found in Switzerland. So I'm very happy with that, and yeah, I'm very happy in my job, to be honest. I mean, of course, there are a lot of crap, everyday things that I regret, like I mentioned it before, like the hierarchy thing, where like your boss has like all the power, and if you come up with with an ID, it's basically not really yours. They always take credit for the best IDs you've had in the long hours. But yeah, anyway, overall, I'm very happy, and I'm glad now that I'm not teaching English, because I know the people who I know that some of my friends who teach English, they regret sometimes not being immersed more in the Korean culture, and also having the opportunity to speak Korean a little bit, because if you don't have any opportunity to speak Korean at work, then in your family sometimes with your like in-laws, but anyway, even if you were speaking Korean like really well, the communication sometimes with the in-laws are not that great. It's like
Sometimes that's better though.
sometimes it's better to pretend to not understand very well.
A bit of a free pass.
Right?
Yeah. So I'm tired. Like I don't understand anymore. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very happy for that point. Like if I came to Korea, it's because I also wanted to learn more about the culture, and I wanted to have some Korean colleagues. And right now, I'm still sometimes part of me want to work for an international company, and maybe because now I'm not using my my language abilities at all. I speak French, English, and Korean, but I'm not using any of that. I'm just fully speaking Korean at work, and I feel like it's such. Not so many people have those skills. And it's a little bit of a shame not using that. So I feel like if I was working for an international company, I could maybe have like a company based in Switzerland that I don't know, they need a bridge with Korea, and I can do the translation and work. I think that'd be great, but I'd be losing that Korean company culture. But yeah, anyway, very happy. But it's also very hard for me to compare what would it be back in Switzerland, because I worked in Switzerland for like 4 or 5 years, but as a student slash worker. Like we have those curriculum in Switzerland that maybe don't really exist in the other countries, but anyway, we can work and study at the same time. So it's not like full-time working, but anyway, I don't have like much experience in Switzerland, so it's hard for me to like actually really compare now like what it would be like for me now in Switzerland.
Right.
I would assume you'd be a banker, correct?
No. No, I'd probably be working also in the same field, but yeah, I don't know exactly what would be different, to be honest.
Probably be less opportunity. Like you can, there's a lot of different similar companies in Korea, so you can try different stuff, I guess, here.
I remember that back in Switzerland, some of my colleagues, they wanted to change their job, but they were really struggling finding another job in tech. I know like many countries they suffer from like it's hard to find a new job, but not in tech. Usually tech people, most countries, they can get a job like within a week. And I know in Korea, if I quit tomorrow, the week after, if I want to, I would be able to find another job. But in Switzerland, I remember like my colleagues struggling finding jobs. So yeah, definitely more opportunities here, and so that's my working experience.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I'll try to put what Valen does in layman's terms, because I don't understand the technical part. If you come to Korea and you happen to go to like a museum or an exhibition that has a really cool interactive like media element, that's like one of the things this company does, is really cool stuff. So I think to your point about Korea and Korean technology being developed, that's why, right, is that the like museums, all the things here, they're so invested in like making really great experiences that there's just there's something work. That's really cool.
I I see something from the chat that something not raised yet is what is it to be a foreigner in a Korean company? Like Guillaume is saying that there's clearly advantages being a foreigner in a Korean company. You don't want to use that card very often because you want to be like the others, and you want to be treated like equally like the others. But definitely we also, even though we also pull like super long hours sometimes, but there's also a little bit of a foreigner card you can play sometimes, where you don't have to respect the Korean culture as much as the other do. Like those, we call like nunchi in the Korean companies is like knowing what the other think. There's no word like this in English, but it's like basically if your manager does not leave work, you cannot leave work before your manager, even though you finished your own work. Right. Which is...
It's crazy.
In the Western working world, that's kind of crazy. Yeah.
But even Koreans, they don't like this so much these days anymore, and it's changing. And I guess it's just a generation problem also. Younger generation, current generation will try to change this. Probably.
When I used to work at like I used to work at a cosmetic company before opening my place, and because it was a lot smaller, nunchi still existed like big time there. So even though I was a foreigner, like if my boss was still there, it was really uncomfortable to leave early. So, but I think like it all just depends by company. It's all different, but definitely for smaller companies, like I think nunchi is still a big thing. Like big companies, they normally just turn off. They'll turn off the computers at 6 o'clock or something, and you know most the working conditions are pretty good now, and I think for your place it's pretty good. Like it's nice. How about yourself, Dan? You want to explain a little bit more about what you do, get up to?
Sure. So I work in digital marketing for B2B, which is business to business. So you can think of that as like software, basically, marketing software solutions to other businesses. I started out in the US working remotely, and the first few years in Korea, I was just working remotely still for a US company, and then was able to transition over to being hired by a Korean company. And so now, as of today, I work for, I'm technically hired through a Korean company. I work for the Korean branch of a company, but most of my direct reporting happens to the US or the UK, or sorry, not the UK, that was a previous company, US or Australia. And so I do the marketing for basically the Asia Pacific region. I'm kind of in a happy Goldilocks zone, I think, in that like I work for a Korean company, I get the Korean pension and different things, but since my managers are in foreign countries, I get more flexibility on like holidays and stuff, kind of the more Western approach to days off and benefits, which is nice. So I think my situation is somewhat unique. I think it would be difficult to find this kind of, it would be difficult to be in Korea with my kind of role if you weren't on like an F6 visa, so a spouse visa. So I have the flexibility. I don't need a sponsor, Korean sponsor for a company. And then I think digital marketing is one of, probably IT, you could find something like that, digital marketing, but the kind of industries where you can do a fully remote job are limited. I think my only con would just be I've been working from home for 4 years. It gets very lonely.
Right.
Just not having colleagues and not going into an office, you kind of miss that interaction.
At least now, because you're working for a Korean company, you're working normal hours though, right? Because I remember before you had to work like crazy hours during the morning or night.
Yeah, when I first came over, I wasn't doing the Asian region marketing. I was still working with American clients. So I was doing like odd hours, kind of calls in the middle of the night or in the morning, and that was about 1.5 years. It was difficult.
And that makes it hard to experience career as well, because you're always tired during the daytime and you just can't be bothered to go anywhere or do anything maybe.
It was the idea. I didn't think it would be as big of a deal as it was. My wife, of course, is always right, and she's like, "You're not gonna like this," and I'm like, "It'll be fine." And I'm thinking I work for 4 hours in the morning, and then I have the whole day off until I have to work again in the evening. But then what happened is it felt like when you have homework on the weekend in school, every day I would like stop working, but I knew 8 hours later, that same day I'd have to start working again. So when you're out doing something in the back of your head, you're like, but in a few hours I have to go work again.
Yeah.
And that was every single day. So that was brutal. Psychologically, you never have a break.
Right.
But now it's great. Yeah, now I work just normal hours. I think, I have slightly early calls because I work with people in Australia who are 2 hours ahead, but it's really not bad. So yeah, it's good.
What about the fact that you have to deal with other countries for your paying taxes and salaries and stuff like?
Probably doesn't pay any.
No, I do. We do that. Actually, no, that's a good question, and it was complicated because the U.S. especially has some. They're one of the only countries where even if you live in a foreign country,
you still gotta pay tax.
Yeah, live and work in a foreign country, you still need to pay and report U.S. taxes.
It's crazy to me
that. I mean, to be fair, there's a large exclusion window. It's called foreign earned income. Not to get into the details, but it's the paperwork really. It's not the money. You don't really have to pay very much money unless you make a lot. Yeah. It's that you just have to do all this paperwork. So, yeah, that was a big thing. I would recommend to anyone in a similar situation, just go hire an accountant. Yeah. Like in Korea, especially, it wasn't too much. I think it was 100,000 won, which is equivalent of $90. to just have someone make sure all the paperwork's filed
Yeah.
correctly. That totally worth it, because otherwise it's, especially for a U.S. citizen, it's really complicated.
You don't want to miss your tax in the US. They'll get your like.
Well, and that's the thing about a lot of countries. I think most countries are this way, where you won't know right away you filed it wrong.
Right.
It's like 5 years later, they're like, "Oh, you've been filing wrong for 5 years," and it's so yeah. But that was a consideration which people don't always think about, is the tax situation is different, retirement accounts, things like that. All of that works differently. So
for me, that would be too much stress. I don't want to have anything to do with my home country anymore. Like
I would like
having
that.
to deal with.
I would like that also, but,
No, but really having to deal with both countries.
Yeah.
I never had to do it, because when I left Switzerland, I told the country, the government, that I was leaving Switzerland for good.
Yeah.
So I don't pay like health insurance or.
But if you were to go back to this, if you don't pay health insurance,
that would be a nightmare.
yeah, it's the same in the UK. Like
had a
I've
back
been
pay.
delaying it for about 8 years now, so I really need to start paying it. So you have to do a certain amount, I think 40 years of payment to be able to eligible for your state pension and your health insurance.
But it wouldn't be that much of a nightmare,
35
because
years or
if I was going back to Switzerland one day, first all my health insurance, I could keep the current ones because they're better than Switzerland anyway.
Right.
So I'll keep my current health insurances, and as for my pension, it would be fucked. But whatever. I prefer to have my own. Anyway, most countries now, like the struggle, like they don't know if when we'll get to 65, if we'll get anything from the government. So
Yeah. We'll be
it's better
65.
to-
We've got 75 probably by the time we.
Yeah. I had the choice actually to keep like paying for like the pension fund,
Yeah.
like the I
Yeah.
don't know, the retirement pension
Yeah.
thingy. But I didn't, because I was like, no, I cannot, like, even like 1,000 per year. I was like, no way. Like, I better be putting this on
Yeah.
Ethereum or something.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Crypto made its first mention on episode 2. But that's actually a point that's if people who are in Korea or aren't sure, it's worth looking into, is what your tax treaty is between your country and Korea. So for me in the US, there's actually a treaty, right, that same sort of thing. You have to have a minimum number of hours worked to qualify for your full vesting in like Social Security in America, which is the retirement. We have a treaty, so like my hours worked for a Korean company should count against the Social Security hours. So it's kind of like it's equal.
Right.
Again, very complicated.
It's difficult,
I
isn't it?
guarantee you in like 15 years, I'll be going and getting another accountant to look into that once we get closer to retirement age. But that is, as I understand it. But it's really complicated to understand, like, will you be giving up your, if you're coming to Korea for not a permanent stay, but a long-term stay, and you're eventually planning to go home, you really do need to look into, like, are you actually right below the threshold? Because it's like 10 years of work in the U.S. to be fully vested. And most people don't consider it, because the mass majority of people just work the whole life in the U.S., don't even think about that. But if you were to leave Korea 9 years with work to a country that doesn't have a treaty and come back when you're 60, you may have to work another few years to qualify for your full retirement, which is complicated.
Can you, if you leave Korea, can you take the whatever you like
Pension.
The pension?
US can.
US can, but you cannot.
I can't.
I can't.
We don't have a treaty. Do Swiss have a treaty? Yeah.
Oh yeah, you have to leave a big chunk, right?
You have to wait till I'm 65. If I'm here when I'm
come
65,
back.
I can get my pension.
Yeah.
But a lot of like people who come for a couple of years, it's money just gone because they're never gonna come back to Korea. Like,
I mean, to be fair, it's not big money. I mean, like now, I've been in Korea for 7 years, but I've been working for 5 or 6 maybe, and it's like something like 15K.
Yeah. Well,
Mr. Moneybags over here, not big money. 15K.
I mean,
I know what you mean in the big picture.
That's a retirement, like, Yeah. I mean, that should support you for. I don't know how many years, but
I
at
think
least
so,
15 to 20
right,
years.
it's the time, like, it's that 30 years from now, 15K, if the markets don't crash, everything should turn into more. But
this brings me on to kind of, like, about me, because when I started here, like, about the treaty thing, when I was teaching, so I actually told the school, I said to them, just don't pay my, I don't want to pay tax, because in Korea you pay half.
I got that signed that on.
No,
I just don't want to pay
not tax. Sorry, not tax. I mean pension. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because they pay half and I pay half.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not gonna get it back anyway. So I said to them, just don't pay it. But I didn't realize in Korea it's like the 4 package things that includes your tax, your health insurance, and everything. So I don't know if that during that time where I was covered for health insurance and everything, cause like I think they just decided to cut. They didn't tell me that at all.
Lewis is gonna get audited after this. Like, oh, we noticed you didn't pay tax for the first year in Korea.
It's only for a year.
But why don't you? That's a good segue. Tell us about your situation.
Yeah, so when I came, I originally was teaching. I did that for, well, I taught for eight months at one school, and then it closed down. The guy, I blame the guy before me. He put it in a horrible situation, and then they were on the last legs. And then I taught at another school for a year, and then that was when I'd already met my wife, but I was like thinking I want to stay in Korea, but I want to do something different. I mean, teaching was I didn't mind it at all, and something I would even maybe go back to. It's, you know, if you get the right setup, you can make good money teaching, and it's actually, you know what I mean, it's pretty satisfying. But so I did my master's here for 2 years, and that's a whole different topic. We can get into that, like my living conditions. I lost, like, I'm already a skinny, scrawny guy, but like I lost so much weight. I was pretty much ill. Anyway, so I studied for 2 years, and then after that, I majored in finance, but, you know, I thought, oh great, 2 years I'm going to be able to study Korean, and my Korean's going to be awesome, and I'll just walk into a job. But no, like what you'll find is that there's a lot of students here, and they come through the system where they'll do 4 years, they'll do the bachelor's, but they do a whole year learning Korean before that. They get paid by scholarship. So when I was going for interviews, their Korean was amazing. So I was like really struggling against a lot of other candidates. Anyway, finance got chucked out the window, and I ended up at a cosmetic company for a couple of years. And now they moved, so I was like, great, it's my chance to get away from Nunchi. As Valentin was saying earlier, try and get away from the Korean culture, and I just wanted to be my own boss. So I've opened up my own place about 2.5 years ago, and as you know, it's,
what type of place is it?
I don't even know really. What are we? We're like a cafe during the day, and then at night time like a bar. So, like it's a little bit different. We're not like a traditional bar. Our place is like on the 4th floor, so we're like in this rundown building. I think it's probably one of the oldest buildings in Korea. You know, everything's modern here, but we're at this old shoddy building, and then we've like decorated like our room is like all English antiques and stuff, and like a little cafe. So so been doing that for 2.5 years, and it's been good. Yeah, it's all right. Nice.
And actually, I know that you mentioned a while back or like this last week that there was a policy coming up that affects, potentially, if it were to pass, could affect restaurateurs like yourself. You want to tell us a little bit about that? I think it's an interesting point of discussion.
Because when I was kind of shocked when I seen it, because when we first set up the business, that was in my eyes, that was one of the benefits, because you can easily, in Korea, you're free to, as long as you're on the right visa, and you're free to do anything really. You can set up a business quite easy, and we decided when we opened the bar, it was actually quite a smooth process. There wasn't really much holding us back. But anyway, recently this week, the new candidate for presidency for the election next year, was it Lee Jae-myung or something? He didn't say it clearly, but he said that one of the things he's considering is putting a cap on. Valentin can bring it up. A cap on the amount of restaurants that are allowed to get registered. I don't know. So like it's quite a restrictive policy. I thought. Yeah, it says there the title. What does it say? Like it's gone. Yeah. Controversy with the idea of a restaurant cap. So I mean, like that made me think, because his reasoning is there's so many restaurants in Korea, which there are, and he's saying that so many people like ruin their lives kind of thing, and they go bust, and they put all their money into all their eggs in one basket, and lose all the money, which I can understand, you know. So I thought it'd be a good topic to talk about, like, is there too many restaurants? What do you guys think? Is there too many restaurants in Seoul? Is there like you know what I mean? Should there be a like restrictive thing? Or it's pretty good topic, because like coming from the UK, I mean, in my hometown, I'm from up in the middle of nowhere, but there's, it's not many restaurants at all. But here, any street you go on, there's like
Yeah.
As Valentine's got a picture there, it's literally in Seoul everywhere, not everywhere, but I mean, like, the main areas look like that.
No, definitely. I think this actually might intrigue in this topic could be to talk about, the rate of self-employment in Korea. So to Lewis's point, he was discussing, right, that a lot of people put all their eggs in one basket, and so the idea is like kind of in Korea, right, what is the, how do we compare? Is it just that the population density of Seoul is so much higher and that's why they're more restaurant, or is there actually a higher rate of people opening their own businesses? And I think Valentine has some stats there on that.
So yeah, I actually searched a little bit because I was curious to know, because I feel like that's also something that I didn't mention before when we talked about our jobs, but I also opened a bar myself, but I still work at a company and as I'm running the bar, and for different reasons, financially, and also when I started the bar is right when the COVID started, so
Timing.
yeah, that's the best time to open a bar. But anyway, so I also have my own business, and that's one of the things that for me, I came to Korea because I wanted to have a better life, and I wanted to have a better work life, cultural life, and I would feel a little bit guilty if I didn't try things that I couldn't try back home. Like opening a business in Switzerland is really hard, and I feel like if you fail, then you lose a lot of money, and bankruptcy is terrible. Like it's I cannot imagine, like my parents, they also own a restaurant, and they struggle sometimes financially, and if they were losing their place, I mean that would just be terrible on the family. As here, you can basically to open a business, you go to the office, you say I want to open a business, and you sign a paper and you set up. There's a few classes to take about hygiene and stuff like that for when you own like a restaurant, but there's
all online, right? It's so easy because
all online. You don't even have to watch. There's like you
just click the
To
button.
be clear, he watched for his place. It's very clean.
I did watch a few videos because I was like just genuinely curious about what's the content of those videos. And there's like some funny video. I don't know if you watch them also, right?
My wife did.
They also watch very clean, very clean.
So, but it's not only about hygiene; it's also about how to handle like a fight in a bar or something. Like as an owner, what you should be.
I must have missed that one.
So they do those little like drama, like the scene, and they have like some actor, like really poor actor, and they're like but they act like they're drunk, and like the owner has to act like
Definitely have to find that for next time.
That's good.
So I thought it was pretty funny. But anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, it's super easy to open a business. You don't need to own like a liquor license.
Yeah. Right.
All the regulations, fees, all that bureaucratic cost that comes down in our home
All you have to do
countries.
is go to the bank and set up a liquor account, like because the way it
Korea.
works.
That's one thing, you have to set up a liquor
But that's
account.
all you have to do. You don't have to pay for any license. It's amazing.
So pretty easy. So I was, if there's one country, I can try to open a business, it's definitely Korea. What was I saying? Super easy to open a business. So I was wondering, like, will this affect how many self-employed there are in the country? And I searched a little bit some data on the internet, and here I have a graph of like self-employment in the world. I didn't put like all countries, but also this graph is a little bit misleading because like the top countries is actually like the biggest. The top one is Colombia. Yeah, interesting. Because but in the article, I found one article that they say that Mexico, top 5 is like Mexico, Colombia, and then there's like Greece and Turkey. But like why Colombia and Mexico are up there is because there's like a lot of farmers, and farmers are like considered like self-employed.
Right.
So like countries where, and also like those like low-income countries where people like it's just it's hard to get the data of exactly of how many people are self-employed. It's not like like European, like Western countries where they have all the numbers and they have all the information on everyone. So anyway, so Korea is actually like top 6 or 7. That was like from 2019.
That may be probably then top 1 or 2 in the OECD, I would guess.
Probably,
If they're top 6 overall. Or, overall.
Hang on, sorry. It's some problem like. Sorry, is it better? There was like an echo apparently. But I had a sound source coming from I don't know where. Should be okay. Sorry
I
about
might
that.
have caused that.
Huh?
I muted myself to cough.
No, it was not. It wasn't about that.
Okay.
I think it's better. So yeah.
So it's pretty high.
So still pretty
One
high.
of the highest, yeah.
One of the highest, like one of the highest in, I don't want to say developed countries, but if we remove the misleading
OECD. That's the easiest way to say it without being offensive.
Yeah.
Probably the highest in the OECD countries.
right, but this is like data from the OECD.
Oh, is top 20? No, I'm just wondering. I thought it was only like OECD was like, is this global data or OECD data?
That's OECD data.
Got it.
And but also that's from 2019 because I didn't take 2020 and 21 because the numbers were a lot different. But also, who knows like what the COVID like
Sure.
how much the COVID affected. So
Half have probably gone out of business. So
Yeah.
it'll be a lot less.
So I wanted to get data
Sure,
from
sure.
before the COVID.
Yeah.
But anyway, like still pretty high.
Yeah.
And so we're like up like 24%, where like the OECD like average is 14%.
Yeah.
So and Switzerland is like also around that 13 or 14%.
Yeah.
USA is really low. It's 6.7%.
It's really expensive to open a business in the US. It's
Yeah,
really
so
expensive.
the US is really low. Couldn't find England. I think they're like in another weird group.
Oh, they Brexited, so they don't share data anymore.
Yeah. Anyway.
So
Well, I
that's
think-
interesting though.
Yeah, the reason in Korea is like, as you guys know, when people work in a company, when they get to the age of like between maybe like 40 and 50, like they often get, if they're not getting progressively promoted, they get pushed out of the company. So these guys have maybe worked in a company for like maybe 15, 20 years, and so they maybe still have kids, they still have like a mortgage, so they've got to find another income source, and it's really difficult to work for a different company.
Yeah.
at that age.
That was the question also then.
Yeah.
So why is it so high? Is it because people they generally want to be self-employed more than
I
in
don't
other
think-
countries, or is it
Nah,
because
I
it's
don't-
easier, or is it because like they get fired and
I think
that's the
that's-
only way
I
out?
think that's the reason. I think what happens is they get like a load of money. So you get your twejikum, your severance money, and then you got maybe like 100 million or something like that, because it say 20 times your salary, and they've got all this money, and they're like, if I just put it into this business, and it, like hire people, they'll get some income coming in, and then the problem is like, it's so competitive. And I think if you have a look at the article which I sent, no, I didn't send it, I wrote it down. I got this, my piece of paper.
See, aren't you happy you didn't write it on a mask wrapper now?
Yeah, it looks a bit more formal. Well, get this right. Per 100,000 people in Seoul, there's 848 restaurants, whereas New York, 309 restaurants per 100,000 people.
Yeah.
And then London, 200, and then like places like Oslo, 59, Moscow, 23.
Yeah.
So like, there's just so many restaurants here. So like, competing is tough. It's really hard.
I think there's some interesting facts too to call out for some people listening who aren't familiar or haven't been to Korea may not realize. Things like the cost of eating out itself is a lot cheaper here.
Yeah.
So when we say there's 840 per 100,000,
Right.
it's not like for in like California where you have fast food and everything else is pretty expensive. I think in Korea the cost of eating out at your average neighborhood restaurant is really low. I
Yeah.
mean, we're talking you can get away with probably manwon like $10 to $15 per person.
Yeah.
But for like full meal and drinks, where
Yeah.
in the US you're talking probably 30 per person easily to get that. So I think there is a bit more if you're talking about the total amount of money being spent on eating out as a pie. There's the slices are much smaller, so it can potentially support more restaurants here. So I think I'm not as surprised that it's higher,
Yeah.
but there is probably
And lunchtimes as well. I mean, lunchtimes, like, people don't bring their own bait. We say bait. They don't bring their own food to work. Everyone goes out at lunchtime. So, like, there's where our place is, there's like a business district, and there's just queues out all the restaurants.
Yeah.
So I think like if you do your business in the right location, then it's
Sure.
gonna go well. But the problem is all these restaurants opening up in like terrible locations, and like often they're franchises. And like we were
Definitely.
saying before the call, they get sold a dream. Maybe this franchise which is just opened up like some fancy new food, and then they'll have like a few flagship stores around Gangnam and them places, and they'll be like, come to the people and like, look, I'm making all this money you're making all these sales every month. Like, if you just open it up, you can.
Yeah.
But they open it up in some terrible neighborhood and then go bust, and that's that's the issue.
And actually, I think that kind of speaks to two Korean pop culture touchstones that most people have heard of, which are Parasite and Squid Game.
Yeah.
And actually, the general premise in both of those has to do with these kind of franchisee business models. So in Parasite, in the very beginning of the movie, the father of the poorer family mentions he had, there was this really popular Taiwanese dessert that came to Korea a few years ago that blew up, franchises everywhere, but it was a trend, right? It's a kind of a flash in the pan, and then people realize it's fine, but it's not, they've all tried it, and they're like, that's great. And then the problem was, for a few months, lines out the door. To Lewis's point, people get sold this idea of, look how busy these places are, and you get this oversaturation of people throwing their severance money at these restaurants, and then 6 months later, when the trend's down, only the popular locations remain.
Yeah.
So the dad mentions he had a failed one of those and a failed chicken restaurant. And the same issue is that chicken restaurants, delivery chicken in Korea is very popular, but you will have this oversaturation of chicken restaurants in one neighborhood, and it can't support it. So the family basically, the whole point of Parasite is they lost the dad's severance money on 2 franchises. And Squid Game is similar. I believe in the first episode, the main character says how he had a failed chicken restaurant. So it's a common enough issue of these franchises. And we were kind of talking about, we wonder how much of it is due to them kind of preying almost on people with selling a dream versus people maybe just making their own informed decision and having bad luck. But it is, I think, certainly an issue.
I think like people just have no solution. There's no other alternative. So they're like if for them to open up their own business right from scratch and do absolutely everything, all the decoration, the concept and stuff is so hard for like a
really
person.
Difficult.
Even like when we did ours, like if it wasn't for my wife, like ours would be like a bloody, I don't know, this is like terrible, I don't want to swear, but like dump. My wife's the one that adds all the character to the place and everything. So it must be hard for like a 50-year-old opening up like a unique like place. So there's no other choice, unfortunately. So but anyway, the reason why it really kind of throwed me was because one of the best things about being in Korea is I felt like when I first came, there's always that freedom. You can do your own business. You can just do anything. You can drink on the streets. You can, I don't know, it's always felt free. And I just a bit of a shame to see that things like this, I don't know, would worry me about like control. For me, I like less restrictions. I like no government telling me what to do. I just want like things to be free. I think things work better like that. So that would be.
I think we can all agree on that. The freedom here is the good thing, and that would definitely put a stop on that freedom. The only like argument that you can, and I was like reading some articles to find like what arguments could be in favor of like reducing the amount of restaurants or small businesses. And it's just that apparently, but it's not even like proven, but there are studies like that checked whether this hurt the economy, as the country economy. Some people say that it does, because like those workers, instead of like working for a big corporate and actually making some real money for the country, they open their businesses that go bust after 2 years. But I would never. I mean, I would always be in favor of like giving people more freedom, letting people swim wherever they want, and.
Valentin has a bone to pick with policies on how far you're allowed to swim off the coast in the ocean. He picks strange hills to die on.
That's a topic for another day.
But that's funny though. It all coincides. Like the suicide rate here is so high, and that's partly because
people can't swim.
Pretty much.
But I think this is a larger philosophical conversation about like the role of government, and I think we all generally agree the Korean government, Korea as a country does a pretty good job with the government. There's like this quote, I was reading an article comparing New York's subway system with Korea, and this city planner from the US came to Korea back like 5-6 years ago and talked to one of the architects of Seoul's public transit system, which is world class in terms of how easy it is to use, how accessible. And what the Korean planner said was like, there's a fundamental question that the government has to answer, which is just like, the public transit system exists to serve the people, or do the people exist to serve the public transit system? And in the US, if you've been to any major city in the US, or not any, but most, The answer is clearly the latter. Like, we exist to make these companies money, and they don't really exist to serve us. And I think, in general, if you ask that question about government, Korea does a pretty good job that the government clearly exists to serve the people. Like, the services they offer, they're generally, like, you're just kind of like, wow, this is great. I wish my country did that.
Right. The subway systems, like, it's always run at like negative or the minus. They're always, the government's propping it up, like, and it is there for the people. So you're
it's
right,
this idea that it's not there to make money. It's there to stimulate the economy by getting people to different neighborhoods and moving people around. And
saying that, now they've got this with Korean thing. They better start running more often, because I'm sick of waiting.
After 11 expanding.
I don't know. You said that to me, and then 2 nights ago I got the subway after 11 o'clock. It was 9 stops away. I was like cursing Dan. I was like, you're lying.
What Lewis is talking about is they pulled back hours on the subway during COVID, and so part of the phased reopening is to expand again. But
especially after after 10, they've really reduced them. So I think they're pulling.
I think, but back to the restaurants though, in my view, the restaurant cap, that kind of thing it's an example of a policy where your intended outcome's here, but you're putting a policy in over here, and there's going to be ripple effects. I think I would be interested in seeing, have there been studies into what proportion of like failed restaurants, are from these franchises. And then also when people fail, people failing isn't necessarily an issue if they're not left with a huge amount of debt. So if you fail and you're able to walk away relatively debt-free, that's generally fine. And that's people taking chances, where the franchises, because they have these big buy-in fees, I think if there's a higher proportion of household debt stemming from failed franchises, then I would be all in favor of a presidential candidate saying we're gonna try to crack down specifically on how franchises approach the market, how people are able to engage with franchises. I do think, like you said, you have this perfect combination for disaster where you have older people from an older generation, big severance money in the bank, don't know what to do with it, and the first person to come along is a franchisee, slick salesperson saying, oh, just put it into this.
Some beautiful leaflets and beautiful pictures of like the shop.
I think that would, to me, would be the issue. So, I mean, hopefully though, optimistically, this kind of policy being proposed starts a conversation that ends up at a good place. Hopefully it doesn't stop there if he wins and result in that.
I don't want to give numbers because I don't remember them, but I remember like looking up for, how much does a convenience store brings, how much money do you earn by opening a convenience store. Here in Korea, there are like 4 or 5 major brand, like convenience store. So there's like a CNU, GS25, 7-Eleven, and Emart 24 now that is becoming more popular. I was wondering like how much money do you make opening those franchise, and it's really not that much.
By the time you pay for staff, the margins are so low on the products as well.
I've heard like a McDonald's or like a Subway is like much better, or Paris Baguette, like those bakery are much better, but a convenience store is apparently like pretty terrible.
You guys know, my wife just shared this with me, which I totally believe because it sounds right. And what do you think the, on average, most successful franchise you can open is in Korea?
Subway, no, isn't it?
No, I think she said it was Baskin Robbins.
Really?
Is and I think though we're talking about, I think we were saying we're not 100%, but I think they have rules on radiuses because you don't see them near each other.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Is Baskin Robbins an American franchise or?
I think it might be American. I'm not 100% sure, but I was like, that makes sense. Ice cream is one of those like.
Even in winter, there's people in the
I just went there.
Nice like. Sweet. Sorry for. I probably bought up. We've been going on a bit there. Like,
we should take a break now.
The next topic's about drinking, so it'll be a bit more interesting, I think, than me bringing up a boring restaurant.
But I do think in general, to close up this topic, there's a lot of really interesting things we can discuss in future episodes regarding kind of the differences between, again, the role of government in Korea versus our home countries, and I think mostly in a positive sense, in that a lot of the reasons we like living here is that the general consensus from most people is the government is trying to do things to improve our lives, and most of the time it works. And I think, sadly, in our home countries, the argument is often like, should the government exist? Should the government do anything? And so it's nice here to have like these conversations about which program works better versus does a program even exist?
Right.
Great.
Good.
So we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back with another installment of Is It Good?
See you in 10 minutes.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time for the second installment of Is It Good? And remember, our current category is From the Convenience Store. Today's item was brought by Lewis, and he's going to give us a quick intro on it.
Yeah, I actually seen some people posting about this beer on Facebook, I think, the other day, and yeah, I thought I've got to bring it. So originally, what it's called was Bulldog Bokkebab. I think that's the word. I always struggle to say that word. It's like the really like the spicy noodles, ramyeon that you can buy in Korean convenience stores. I mean, have you guys ever tried it before?
I haven't.
It's pretty.
I don't know. I've tried some pretty spicy ones. I don't know if I've tried
Yeah, this one's pretty brutal.
Yeah, I know that's like something you must try in Korea, but I never.
Yeah, people used to try them. Like, I don't know whether they started selling them all overseas, but there was loads of videos on YouTube. Like a few years ago, people in America, everywhere, like trying them, and like people were like dying while eating them. But anyway, amazing. They've brought out a beer, so I was like, we've got to try this. I don't know whether actually it's going to be spicy or what. I have no idea about it, but I thought, yeah.
Well, the bigger question is it good?
Yeah, exactly. So Valentin
go for it?
cracked it open.
Sure.
And it's exclusively at the moment only sold at the CU convenience store. So yeah, it's very light anyway. I think we're like, what time are we on now? And we're late enough to drink beer. I mean, it's.
I have a suspicion I'm going to wet my tongue with this, and then run to the back to get a glass of milk to dip my tongue in.
Nah, I don't think it's going to be spicy. I don't know. Someone wrote online that it's good, so I'm very curious.
Well,
Drink
have you been
alcohol
online?
responsibly.
People have terrible taste.
True. Yeah. Never believe anyone.
All right, let's
Can you
smell the bouquet.
Smells just normal. Does it?
Smells like beer.
Yeah.
All right, so we're all gonna try, and then remember we're going to vote.
Kill me for making a noise.
And that's and then we're gonna try, and then we will vote.
All right, cheers.
Okay, poker face until we vote.
All right, thumbs out.
Hang on, I need more time.
Yeah. Okay, one last.
Like dead silence for like 20 seconds. That's so unique. Like,
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay,
Thumbs out. All right.
it's like 1 or 2.
Yeah. Just up or down, right? On 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
I'm doing down on my own one.
It's a 2-1. So why don't you start? What were your thoughts?
I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, but could you drink a full glass of it? It's so unique, isn't it? It's really. I've never tried anything like that.
Interesting. I have to say, to me, I was underwhelmed by there was no ramen. To me, it just tasted like it was just like a decent fruit ale. Like, it wasn't too fruity. Honestly, it just tasted like a light wheat beer to me.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't
It's not
even taste
spicy.
like it's strong in alcohol. I mean, that's like
What?
5.8, but
It doesn't taste like that
it
at
tastes
all.
like soda or something, doesn't it?
It just tastes like a normal, like, light beer to me. I don't get any. Actually, I don't even get mango. I don't get mango or ramen. But it was nice. I could drink this in the summer when it's hot
Really?
out. I could drink a
I
glass
couldn't
of
drink
this.
a full can of it. Like, it's got like a really aftertaste for me, but it's not spicy though. It's not like, but it's got a twang to it, like a very.
Do you get any ramen hits?
No, not at all. For
None.
me, it tastes like, those soda that are, iced tea with like a little bit of mango, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like an Arnold Palmer kind of.
Like what?
Yeah, it's really.
Oh, for everyone, an Arnold Palmer is the American
heard
where
of
you
that.
drink, you mix sweetened iced tea and lemonade.
I've heard
Made
of
famous
that,
by the
yeah.
golfer Arnold Palmer.
Mhm.
That's what it tastes like. Yeah, like lemonade and iced tea or something.
Yeah, it tastes like this, not
Yeah.
beer.
I think-
Doesn't really taste like.
You
beer.
call it a Federer in Switzerland.
Saying
I'm
that,
surprised. 5.8. I mean, that
Yeah,
should
that
be
is-
strong, but
Yeah.
saying that after like a few seconds, I can feel a little spice.
I can too. Actually, a
Little
little
spice.
a little heat,
Yeah,
a little heat right here.
yeah, a little bit around my teeth. I can feel it.
Okay, there's only one. Should we do the final test? Just dab some in our eye and see if it burns.
maybe
Was
it
it
burns.
swish?
Maybe that comes from the fact that we haven't eaten anything and it's like 10:40 in the morning.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Well, I think we can safely say this one it's pretty good. I think it's worth a try. If you're worried about it being spicy or tasting like ramen,
Yeah.
doesn't. Big question: was this part of a 4 for 10 at this convenience store? So a 4 for 10 at
Yeah,
the
it
convenience
was.
store in Korea.
Yeah.
4 beers for 10,000 won, which is a staple
Yeah.
of Korean drinking culture.
Yeah, it was.
Or foreign Korean drinking culture.
Yeah, I got three other beers as well.
Yeah.
While I was drinking the other one last night, I fell asleep on the sofa. So. I woke up this morning and I was like, half of the beer's there. I was like, what a waste.
It's a good transition to the current drinking culture.
Yeah. The next topic for today is Korean drinking culture. So we'll just go down the line. Why don't we start with Lewis? Why don't you just give us a quick 2 minutes on what is your take on UK drinking culture,
All right.
and then kind of what is
Difference.
what is Korean drinking culture to you in your context?
So, like, as many of you might know, like in the UK, we're pretty bad for binge drinking. You know, come the weekend, maybe from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, like when people go out, they go out to get blackout drunk. I mean, there's no like, you know, little bit in the middle. If you go to the pubs and stuff, people just drink until you're pretty wasted. So, like, when I was younger, before coming to Korea, I mean, you know, obviously I was younger as well, but yeah, you used to drink a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But comparing that to Korea like to do that every day. So, you know, there's no weekend. I mean, if anything, Koreans will do it during the week more than the weekend. Weekend will be like, as long as you're not young, they'll have rest with families and stuff. Whereas, you know, Monday to Thursday, you know, like office workers and stuff will, you know, go for work dinners and things like that, and they'll drink pretty much till blackout, sick, lying on the floor. I don't know, being sick on themselves, and like, because I go home like late on weeknights. You know, we close at 11. So now, so some of these sites Valentin's gonna pull up. Like, it's a regular thing. Like, you really do see people like that all the time, or lying on the road. I don't know why Koreans like to lie on the road or sit on the road. Like, there's cars going by and no one's helping them. So
I mean, I've seen at least one of those, like, you know, every year at least, like that serious, like sleeping on the floor.
Oh yeah. Honestly, I like it. Not every week, but every few weeks I see it. Yeah.
So in the interest of countering that blanket generalization, Korean office worker, can you give us maybe some insight on how common would you say it is, like at your company, other companies you've worked at? Is it an everyday thing, weekly thing? How has it changed since you first came to Korea?
Sure. I mean, so the current drinking culture in company is, we have what we call like a weshik, is when worker, they go for a drink together after work, and that's one of the things that everybody tells you when you come to Korea, is that, you know, the weshik culture is really intense, and they force you to drink a lot of you know, beers and soju. But I mean, it really depends in which industry you're working. For like, yeah, which me in tech, we personally in my company, we don't do it very often. And if we do, I mean, it depends. Not everyone would drink. A lot of people say these days, like, I don't drink, and that's
young people,
perfectly fine. You know, like there will always be like one guy, like older guy would say, "Oh, come on, I'll just pour you one drink. It's gonna be fine." But no, like a lot of like girls don't drink these days. Like younger girls, they don't want to drink. And yeah, for me, I don't have bad experiences with that. I know some of my friends, one of them who is in the chat right now, work in the car industry, which is a little bit older and like older traditions. And I know he's gonna be probably a very different experience. Yeah, we should have him on the show actually, because we won't have those. Yeah, I think none of us has the experience of having really bad weshik at work. Yeah, maybe you did when you were working in the marketing.
Well, no, not really. But like when we did used to go out, it was drink until you're pretty much like dead. But like, so we didn't. The good thing is it wasn't often. So like it would be like only a couple of times a year. So
you're actually happy to go, like, because it's not that
still
often.
hated it because I didn't want to drink with my coworkers. Like I didn't want to, my boss, not my coworkers, my boss. That was the thing.
So for us, like I have actually one picture from my own experience of that's when we were. That's the typical, like, you know, weshik. I blurred my colleagues' faces anyway. Most of them quit the company already. So, but yeah, that's a typical setup. You see, like all those green bottles. They're like soju bottles.
What are you eating? What's that in that bowl?
I don't remember. That was a long time ago. Yeah. But like, yeah, we were all sitting on the floor, and I blurred people's faces, but you can see like they lost it already. Like
a thousand yards there.
Like there's one guy at the back. He's like already like half sleeping. And anyway, so that was when we were working for, you know, with clients, and we're drinking with clients at the end of the project, or towards the end of the project we usually have some, like, you know, celebrations, and So our manager used to tell us always like, be careful when you drink with the clients. Don't be too wasted. But they were the first to actually be like super wasted and become friend and everything. But it's bad and good. I would say there's definitely some bad out of it. You know, like you might say something that you would regret later. Yeah. But also it brings also some good. Sometimes there's a lot of tension towards the end of the project, and people fight, and then there's a lot of misunderstanding, and Weshik is also a good opportunity to settle those arguments, and maybe we misunderstood each other and we learned to become friend again, and that fixed some of our relationship with our clients actually, going out for drinking. Sure. Yeah, definitely. I had that one experience when we were working for the Olympics in Pyeongchang like a few years ago. Our clients were really bad to us sometimes, like always criticizing what we were doing, like, and we had one night out, and the day after we were like best friends, like really
bonding session.
I would say that's not too different than like I worked at a lot of US companies, and we'd have team happy hours. That always helped you. You felt so much closer to the team after that, and it's just not maybe as formally structured as the Korean type, but it's a similar thing. And clients too, you have one happy hour with the client, and then the next 6 months of working, it's much more casual, much more enjoyable.
Brings down your boundaries a little bit between people, and feel comfortable around each other more.
One weird thing is that very often when you apply for a company in Korea, like your boss would ask you, at the end of the interview as a kind of joke, but not really joke, like how much can you drink? Like how many bottles of soju you drink?
It's always bottles of soju.
And I always answer the same thing, it's like, I don't know. And they're like, whoa, because I drink so much. But I say, no, I literally don't know. I haven't counted. And they think that, you're drinking.
Well, and can drink and like to drink is different. Like I think for me, like to drink, 2 bottles of soju over a night is a nice amount to just hang out and have fun. But I probably could drink much more than that. I just don't think I'd want to drink much more than that.
I would say, 2 bottles of soju is a...
stretched out over 5 or 6 hours.
But that's the thing, in Korea they don't stretch. It's like not binge drinking, but like fast drinking. They drink super fast.
And I think in the interest of fairness too, to defend against Lewis's, Koreans binge more. I think that the nature, because I think UK and US drinking culture is very similar in that just binging, drink to blackout. I would say, I think for me it was a big difference in Korean drinking culture is that yes, people drink a lot, but I think the strength of the drinks is weaker. So in America, people will binge drink, vodka or gin. And I think a big difference, I think Valentin will pull up a picture, is the kind of drinking atmosphere isn't shots. It's drinking with food, right? It's going out and having a meal.
What do you want about
Shot. Sometimes.
True. But I think there's almost always a food component of your night out, and that to me was great because it balances out the alcohol. I think the speed drinking, and I think the
definitely helps keep you a little bit.
I think for people that don't know, in Korea, it's really common, right? Is first of all, when we talk about bars in Korea versus restaurants, most places in Korea you see are classified as restaurants because they serve food with the alcohol, and it wouldn't be your typical experience of what is a bar versus a restaurant in deep America. You drink while you're eating, even if it's 2-3 in the morning, you might order some food with it, and I think that helps to balance out. And I would also say that maybe this is again me generalizing in the opposite direction, but when I think of a UK or American person getting blackout drunk, I think of kind of aggressive and kind of that I feel like in Korea, even though you might get the people passed out, office workers, you're not worried when you meet a drunk person in the street that they're going to attack you, or a group of drunk friends are going to beat someone. It's just, I think, a more calm
people
vibe.
Keep to themselves more. People will be drinking around their own table. They don't really bother each other. In the UK and places, everyone just mixes around and what are you looking at?
Well, in America, it's so common to see around in drinking neighborhoods, a bus stop with the glass broken or a car. People just get kind of awful in the US, especially when they're drunk. They break stuff for no reason. They steal things. They'll just take a stop sign and take it. Stuff like that. In Korea, you don't. I was just thinking this yesterday.
Never done that before.
No, well, the thing is, I was just thinking in Korea, we were just at the convenience store last night, 11 p.m. On the way home, getting some coffee for this morning because I had to come early, and there were some guys who had been drinking outside, and outside the convenience stores, they have the ice cream freezer.
Yeah.
And they're it's just in America, I would be, if I was convinced, we're watching that all the time because drunk people would just come by and take it. That just would happen. And here, those guys it's always drunk guys, but they get their ice cream, come in, wait quietly in line, pay for it.
Yeah.
And then they don't really, that ice cream cooler stays outside all night. Right. And then I realized oh my God, in America,
couldn't.
That would just be like all the ice cream would be gone within a week. If you just left it outside unlocked in an area where people are drinking, people would just steal the ice cream.
Yeah,
Like it's a bit different vibe, I think, on the street.
To me, overall, like the drinking culture is better here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely some downsides
Yeah.
about the Korean working culture. And actually, as Guillaume mentioned it in the chat before, and that's kind of true also. Like he was saying that whatever you say during those weshik, the day after, like your boss would not hold it against you, because that's kind of something you don't say, but it's kind of what happened in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's good. What's Guillaume been saying to his boss when he's drunk?
Is that where he just lets it fly?
Guillaume, you're definitely coming on the show next time.
Yeah.
Letting us know.
anyway, about that, that's kind of true, and also
Yeah.
it's acceptable for a worker to come back the day after being like super hangover and sleeping on the couch, as long as he showed up.
Yeah.
Like as long as he pressed the like the
Time.
Log
thing.
in button, the time sheet.
the time sheet, then you're good to go.
The first time I did a work dinner with my bosses, it was just the three of us, right? And they were getting me like completely drunk here. Like we were like, because the first time I'd only been working there a month or two, I think, and we got super drunk. And it was like 2 a.m, and I used to work in Incheon, so it was like an hour away to get like an hour taxi. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, because when you're drunk, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it on time tomorrow. My boss was like, even though he was drunk, he's like, you've got to be there at 9 o'clock. I was like, is he been joking, or is he like being serious? He's just got me absolutely wasted. Like, do I really have to be on time? And yeah, like you said, as long as you're on time, they don't care. Like, you can just sleep on your chair, but you have to be there, otherwise they'll be annoyed.
There was also something that I wanted to mention about the downside, and I don't know what you guys think about this. I don't think we've ever talked about this together, even off camera. Is that here women drink a lot too, where in European country, I don't know in America, but I feel like a lot of women, they don't like to drink, they don't want to show that they're drunk. I don't know, what is it?
You need to go to Newcastle.
I think in our countries, women be sloppy.
Yeah, right. I think you got Switzerland, you got some classy ladies in there.
The UK and the US, no, the women get
You
pretty...
would say like women drink the same amount of alcohol as men back in
I don't know about
UK?
the same amount. They can't in the US, or at least they can't handle it. They get to the same level of drunk for sure in the US, like blackout, puking on themselves, broken heels.
Yeah, man.
Me, I would say, of course, there are a lot of women who drink, but I don't know. I feel like classy. Some women, they like, they don't want to behave like completely drunk in front of other people.
I think in the US,
Bunch of alcoholics like in the UK.
Isn't that nice?
That's interesting about Switzerland.
And,
What I wanted,
Guillaume from France, tell us.
yeah.
We're neighbors, so maybe it might be the same thing.
one thing I do want to mention is that, like earlier I said, everyone binge drinks here, but actually over time, like Valentin said, there's a lot of people who don't drink, and it has got a lot better. There's nowhere near as many hueshiks, and it's like when I've spoke to other restaurant owners and stuff in our area, which because it's like a business area, they've said over the last, I don't know, like, because a lot of them have been there for years, they said like it's been a downtrend about the working culture. It's a lot of times people don't even go drinking, they'll go for like a coffee or to get a tea together or something at cafes. So it's definitely a lot less pressure than before, but like you said, like Guillaume's company, old company, and these traditional places, it's definitely still there. It's good for a business. When they come to my bar and there's like here with the company card, I'm like, come in. Just,
that's the best.
They're like, what wine would you recommend? I'm like, not that first page. You guys look on the side.
I have a special page.
And I think that even the word binge almost means something else. For me in the US, binge is like a function of the fact that our bars close at 2 a.m. and the last call's at like 1:30. So binge, and people don't go out till 10. Like my wife had a funny anecdote when she went to school in America for a year, and she was in Texas, and she said it was so funny when she first started going out with her friends in Texas. They'd meet at someone's house right before going out, and then they would like drink there, and then they wouldn't go to the bars till like 10, and she would be like, but don't they close at 1 or 2? And they're like, yeah, it's okay. And it was kind of this like, why are we, it's such a different experience. So binging was like, you have to cram all your nights drinking into this little window, where in Korea I think people drink a lot when they go out, but just the function of like, you might start drinking at dinner, and then you can stay out till 3 or 4 a.m. and it's safe, and there's people on the streets. Like,
but that's the thing; it's safe also, and
safety
to like what I was saying about women's before drinking. Also here in Korea, at least they can be completely wasted, and they'd be okay. They'd be, no one would, do anything.
Most like that's something I'd like to talk about in future things, because from a guy's perspective, I always think that women are safe, but I have heard loads of stories about like
True.
it's unsafe for women.
Yeah.
So I'd love to get like a woman guest on to be able to put
It'd
this
be
into their
interesting
perspective.
that
We'll be bringing guests.
Well, it'll
soon
be
to our
interesting
show.
too, a foreign
you know,
guest and a
everyone.
Korean, because I think
Coming soon.
it's definitely not as safe for Korean girls like our wives as Korean men or us.
Yeah.
But I think also the perception of the level of safety compared for women here versus a foreign country, it's like,
yeah, it's so much
you know, you
better,
get creepy people kind of following people home and stuff.
Yeah.
But the like,
Not getting stabbed.
well, I know that, and this actually goes back to our first conversation about government programs. Is I was just reading about little things like apparently there's a government number you can call or text when you get in a taxi, or a QR code or something, and it just sends the information of the time, the taxi number
That's really
to like just so it's just known, like they know which taxi you got into.
Oh.
Little things like that are just like, oh, that's a great program.
Even without that, they would know. Like they track us.
Yeah.
all the time.
But it's like you're putting your hand up to be like, please pay attention to my trip right now because like I'm getting in a taxi.
Yeah.
And then there are the little call buttons around where it's like if you don't feel safe, you
Yeah.
press a button. There's like certain actually this is an interesting one. Did you know there's certain convenience stores that are designated as like a safe zone in each neighborhood? So if you are not feeling safe, like a woman being followed
I've
home,
seen
you can
them,
go to the
yeah,
convenience
yeah.
store and that convenience store knows that we're a safe zone, so they'll lock the door and like call the police for you.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And then I just learned this because we moved into an apartment. Some apartment buildings, the double doors in the front, there's a like reflective panel in the middle.
Right.
That is so someone can see as they're walking up to the building if someone's behind them following.
All right, that's good, isn't it?
Yeah, there's like little things like that,
Yeah,
and
it's
like
really smart.
it's funny that they have all these things in place in a country where there's so little crime, and then you go to like the U.S. where it's like the Thunderdome, and there's like none of these things in place. It's just like carry a gun and fend for yourself. Where here it's like
for all.
here it's like someone was made uncomfortable by someone following them, so we're gonna put all these measures in place to make people feel safer. And America's like, oh, you got shot going to the grocery store. This is the cost of doing business. I'm sorry.
Some places can be already a lost cause. It's really hard to get it back to normality. So I think Korea's doing the right thing. Try and like, if the,
Stamp it before it gets
yeah.
serious.
So no,
Yeah.
it's good.
The drinking culture, I think, it's hard to explain if you haven't been here and drank in Korea. Like if you come from a Western context where you've never been here, it's almost hard to understand. Like when we talk about binging or stuff, like how different it is.
Right. There's no better feeling than if you go with your mates to like a barbecue restaurant, having like cooking your own meat, having like some soju's,
Oh,
beers. It is like the best atmosphere. You can't beat it. Like
You
know,
linger for hours over the grill, watching
Yeah.
people walk by.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, a lot of there is pubs and bars, but the majority of drinking here is done in like restaurants or that type of stuff. Like you have got your clubs and everything, but they're mainly for younger people. We don't. Us old kids don't go there anymore, really. Yeah, but
This is the cost even. Like to go to a barbecue place, like Korean barbecue in the West, or a barbecue place, and to sit eating tons of meat and drinking for 3 hours.
Yeah.
You'd be looking at hundreds per person,
Right.
and here you're walking out at maybe 40,000, 50,000 won a person for 3
Yeah.
hours of drinking. It's nice.
Yeah.
And actually, that kind of atmosphere is why I really like soju, because for people who don't know, soju is about 15 to 19% depending on the brand and the flavor. So you take shots, so you have that kind of culture of cheersing a shot and taking it, but you're not taking. It's only 19%. So you can cheers and shoot
Yeah, but
constantly.
it's weird. Surgery is weird. Like I feel
Yeah.
like if I was doing like shots of red wine, which
Right,
is like almost the same.
Exactly.
I would. I can. Yeah, I can do shots of like an entire like bottle of wine, which is like maybe the equivalent of 2 bottles of soju.
But come on, wine's being like it comes from the grape, it's aged, you know what I mean? It's got a sophisticated process. God knows where soju comes from, man. You know what I mean?
Well, I have my interesting fact is about that actually.
Okay.
A little fact.
Oh.
But I mean about how drunk you get, right? It's the same.
Yeah, you get super drunk.
It catches up with you. It's dangerous.
It's deceptive because when you drink it, you think that's fine, but every shot you take, it gets a little bit worse. And like by the time you've on whatever shot, it starts really burning like a vodka or something, like, and then you know you're done. You're blackout.
There is some interesting things with like kind of Korean alcohol and stuff. I was just again that show I mentioned last time on Netflix about Korean alcohol. They showcased that there are a lot of traditional Korean liquors outside of soju, right? Like other liquors, and there's a theme, like a trend right now with some bars opening up to make cocktails, like actual nice cocktails,
Soju
out of
cocktails.
not soju even, out of like the traditional liquors, which I think would be great for Korea as like a just part of the culture to develop your own unique history and brands and like of other alcohols. I think now it's just green bottle soju, and there's not that like I want to have a nice cocktail. It's a Western cocktail, and it'd be really great to have that kind of like different herbs and stuff and have them matched with different mixers and make some really interesting cocktails. That's a kind of a missing.
I think for
piece.
young people, but the old typical of Josh is not going to be gone for that.
That's the
Give me
same-
my green bottle.
That's the same even in the U.S., right? You get the typical old guy, old American who's like, I just want my Budweiser and my shot of Jack Daniels. You know, it's the same sort of thing, I think.
I was thinking about like creating a soju-based cocktail here in the
Yeah.
bar,
Yeah.
but I haven't get the chance yet to try. But yeah, it might be interesting. It might be like a good like advertisement. You know, like come and try that. You know, I don't see many soju
No.
based
Yeah,
cocktails
yeah.
beside the tonic water and like what do you
Yeah.
call it, the halasan
Yeah.
halatonic. You know, the
Yeah,
halasan
yeah.
soju with
Yeah.
tonic.
Yeah.
Beside that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think honestly, this is kind of probably just the opening discussion on Korean drinking culture. I think there's so many sub segments and stuff to talk
Yeah,
about in the
definitely.
future that we can dive into. But it's
Yeah.
like, I think it's just so different. Like the experience, the way alcohol is treated in life is so different than in the West that
Yeah.
like you can break it out into work drinking, social drinking. Like there's just so many aspects that are very different.
I think we'll have to have like a whole video about like talking about some of the drunk experiences we've had here. You know, there's been because you know.
I don't know. No.
I think while we're drinking, we'll have to go back to midnight and get drunk, and then just all the stories come out because there's been some funny events over the last few years.
I think actually though that's true. Some of those stories will be the best way to shed a light on how the drinking culture is different. Like certain things that it's like if you had done that or if that had happened in the West, it would have been a just completely different night. Where it's like here it was. I had that somewhere. It's like I don't know, there's bouncers stuff. It's just somewhere it's more casual. Where in the U.S. it's just like really people fight and stuff. It's just, they're so strict about everything. I remember
being in jail for the night.
Yeah, or like getting kicked out of places, or like in the U.S. it's very much like intense. Where here it's like, oh, you're not being violent, you're not being awful, you're just kind of having fun, and you're kind of within like okay, like they're pretty cool about it at most places. Where in the U.S. it's kind of like almost combative sometimes between the bartender, the bouncers, and the people in the bar. Like they almost don't want you to be there. Like, oh, you're drunk here, like get out. And it's like I'm here to get drunk. Like that's the point. And it's like
give me my tip and then go.
I had a friend back in America. He said he was at a bar in New York, right? And they bounced him, and he's like, "Why am I getting kicked out?" They're like, "Oh, you're drunk." He's like, "It's a bar." And they're like, "Yeah, you're too drunk though." And it's like this idea that like we all have to pretend to not be drunk kind of in the bar, otherwise we get kicked out.
Yeah.
Like
it was the same when we were in Australia. Like they're really strict as well. Like Australians love to drink, but I couldn't believe it when we were in Sydney. Like my mate just kept getting kicked out of everywhere. I couldn't believe he literally go in and like 20 minutes later he was kicked out. They're so strict.
Even things like sleeping. Like in America, it's like if you like. You can't like sleep in a bar, which is that obvious, but you can't like lean on the wall and kind of just like rest for a little bit.
A lot of people sleep in bars in Korea.
Yeah, in Korea it's like you're out for the night at a table with your friends, and one person just like is taking a nap for 20 minutes. They're fine with it. Like they don't mind. Like you're at a table, the other people are buying stuff still. What do they care? They're being quiet. But in America, it's like if you at all like lean down, just like oh you're drunk, you're sleeping out.
I've seen a woman like recently. Actually, she was like she's keep like throwing up on herself in the restaurant. And
Dude, I've had that.
Okay, that's pretty brutal.
I've had that in my bar. Someone threw up on themselves, and I was just like, I wanted to throw them out the window. I was just like, she was just sick.
I don't condone that. I think they should.
But that's a bad point also for me is that sometimes they don't know where the limit is.
Yeah.
And everyone like once in a while get like super drunk. I did, and maybe I don't know if we want to go for like a quick like 5-minute story like the worst experience. You want to go for that?
Let's save it.
Or?
I think.
Let's save it.
Let's
save it for a
drunk
full
stories.
I think we should sandwich it. We should do a whole segment
Yeah.
on best, worst, most drunk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that's for me. I get super drunk sometimes, and it happened to us all the time. But I would say like once a year, where I could not control, and I'm doing something that I regret, like throwing up, everywhere.
In someone's sink, maybe in the
In
chat right now.
Yeah, these kind of things, But Koreans, it happened more often, and sometimes I feel like I'm always the one saying to my wife or friend like, guys, tomorrow. I mean, we're adults, we have responsibilities sometimes also, But they're like they have no limits, and no one is there to say let's take it easy tonight. No one.
Especially our wives, bloody hell. When you get them together, they're like, a couple of years ago, when we were, was it 2 years since the picnic? And I remember, like, all of us guys met, and the wives met, and, like, we were all sat, this was before Corona, I guess, because we were all sat in the park, and there's about 5 guys. We're all just having a few drinks quietly, and the women together. It was the most noisy, like, bunch of like loud, I don't know, like hyenas there, like shouting. And I was,
he does not speak for the rest of us. They were delightful songbirds.
Come on, like
they were delightful songbirds.
How bad was that day? Like, I don't even want to get into it. Like, that was a shit show of a day. Everyone's spewing everywhere, and oh my god.
Wait, hold on. I don't actually think this was the picnic I was at.
No.
Okay, come on, Francis.
I think it's before
not me.
I think it was before we met you. I think it was a couple of years ago. But bloody hell, the women were like the animals. They were like, jeez. It was
yeah.
Valentine's.
But again, like no limits at all.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I reached my limit and I regret, and like I'm trying to, either going back home or, but here, like, it's like animals.
I'm washing my hands of these conversations.
Yeah, I'm not gonna complain. I'm the same though. There's often I don't know when to say no sometimes to stop. So. No, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's that's a good. Koreans are pretty fun. They love to hang out, socialize, and just get merry and stuff. So.
Like I said, I think just for me, the closing comment of this for myself would be the attitude, just the vibe. The U.S., every place you go for the drinking place, you have that kind of wariness of like
on the edge.
There's douches there. There's some group of douchebags who are gonna try to fight people, or people aren't as. I wouldn't say even like Korean. They drink in groups of friends. Like, it's not that the groups of friends are all friendly to each other. People are pretty much keep to their own.
Yeah, definitely.
But in a way where each group is there to just have fun.
Yeah.
I feel like in the U.S. you almost always get groups of people who are there to have fun by making other people feel comfortable or trying to act tough, and it's like any place you go,
same with
you have to feel that. And here it's like I've never even seen two groups of Korean friends fighting. Like, everyone's pretty polite and pretty drunk and having fun, but no one's out to fight, prove how manly they are or anything.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. What are your closing thoughts on this?
I might close with, would be ashamed not to use all the assets that I prepared for today. No, but I was, everyone think, and I didn't talk about my home country actually in this segment, but drinking culture is very different. But I feel like in your home country, or not, I mean Korea, we feel like, oh, we're the heaviest drinker. Like everyone think that they're the heaviest drinkers.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking that Korea would be pretty high. The amount of alcohol consumed by people per year would be pretty high, but not that much actually. I have a picture here of how many liters are consumed by people per year, the average, and Korea is around 10 liters, which is the average. The average is 11.9 liters, something like this.
Only 11
across the world, yeah. There's some outliers like Seychelles, it's like
because it's so few people.
It's 20 liters per.
There are so few people in there. They're all tourists.
No, it's liter per person.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
How? Why?
I don't know. There's definitely some weird data, and I was like, what the fuck is going on in Seychelles?
Such a small population. I guess.
Anyway, Korea is not that high. Actually, you can see the blue countries, they are the heaviest drinkers, and Europe I think stands out when you look at the dark blue. Korea is we don't see very well the color here, but it's light blue, around 10 liters.
Yeah.
And then America is not really. You guys are not very heavy drinkers, are you?
I wonder if that's part because people can't drink till they're 21 in the U.S. So the amount of people in the eligible population, compared to the 100,000, might be a little lower. I wonder if you could see a time. If there was, if we could see Korea's rank here over time, if you rewound 20 years ago, there, when the Wei-shik culture, everything was a bit more. I think, like we said, the younger people are drinking less. Coffee's a lot more popular, things like that. I wonder if I would imagine a pretty steep drop off in this more recent generation.
But I really thought that it would be pretty high because we feel like we have like you said, people drink very often, almost every day. I mean, not everybody drink every day, but you see sceneries of people being drunk every day. It's and people they don't wait for the weekend to hang out. You can go for a beer or soju right after work. Yeah. And I would really have thought that it would be much higher, but it's not.
I wonder too if it has to do with home drinking, where in Korea, because we talked about cost of going out is so cheap, it's transportation's easy, people drink on the weekdays. You might go out and catch a casual beer or something and call it quits in the weekday, or a casual soju.
Casual social.
No, out. But then
Yeah.
if you're not going out, you don't drink as much. Where in like Europe, wine at home, right?
Yeah.
You might have wine every night at home. Where in
Yeah.
Korea, you might go out 3 times a week with your friends, but the
Right.
other nights you're probably not drinking at home. I wonder if you in the aggregate of a year, one bottle of like half a bottle of wine every night or whatever you might drink.
It's huge. Like,
Yeah.
like drinking a glass of wine every day, like for dinner, it's a
Yeah.
big difference.
Yeah, it's like 4 glasses is like basically 750. That's huge. Every week you're putting an extra liter or 2 into your numbers.
And there are a lot of fun data on
Yeah.
the website that I found, like about how many people, the percentage of people drinking wine versus beer versus hard liquor, and there's also like data about like less funny, but how many deaths per year there are. Like
That's funny.
Save that for next week.
But actually, on the note of interesting data, should we transition to little known facts?
Sure. Yeah, I'm not gonna start then. I'll think
Okay.
about mine.
So just to remind everyone, this next segment is little known facts. So each of us will take turns sharing what we consider to be a little known fact. The other 2 people will then judge, is it little known and is it an interesting fact?
But among us, or like little known, like for the viewers.
That's up to us.
I don't even,
I think the
I don't
last
even
one,
know, really.
the last one you shared last week, I found it interesting to just broadly,
Yeah.
or little known broadly. So I voted yes, but Lewis he's a harsher.
Because I have like plenty of little known facts about Korea that people would not know. Foreigners who come here for like 2 weeks or even like a
Yeah.
year exchange student, they wouldn't know those things.
Throw it out there. Throw it at the mercy of the court.
That works.
You're
It's
gonna
gonna be objective about this, or
No.
No,
I
it's
won't be
purely
critical at all.
subjective
Yeah.
based on the moment.
Until
but
you-
just-
until you-
There's a
until
little
you
known
say it.
fact about like 3 people who like live like almost like he lived like 10 years in Korea. Like, I mean,
I don't
how
remind-
can I
stop-
surprise
stop
you?
But it could be a
Stop
fact about
reminding
you.
me.
It could be a fact about anything. So I will lead it off maybe then to get us started. So on the subject of alcohol, I'm going to make up for my horrible fact that I forgot last week. Little known fact is that obviously the soju bottle, the green soju bottle, is ubiquitous, right? Every drama, movie, there's the green soju bottle. So a little known fact is that actually the reason all the soju companies use that green bottle is that the companies interchange. So the government basically thought it was really wasteful, and so the companies are all supposed to use the same bottle, and then that's why when the store owners put the bottles out,
Yeah.
companies just take any box regardless of the bottle and then rinse the label off and reuse it. And so you can get instances where a bottle might have like Jinro stamped on the side, but it's actually a different bottle. And it used to be that, and actually still happens, some people will think it's a knockoff, like not a real soju because it has a different company's indentation on the glass than is the label. And so some people think, oh, this isn't a real bottle, it's a knockoff. But it's not. It's just that to reduce waste, I thought it was a really smart program. To reduce waste, they said everyone use the same bottle. That way we don't have to worry about like recycling, we can just keep reusing the bottles. So that's my little known fact about Korean alcohol. So judge me. How many points do I get? Remember, 2 thumbs, one if it's little known, one if it's interesting.
I wouldn't do. All right.
Okay.
Or just me?
No,
No, no,
both of you. All right, 3, 2, 1. Is that down? That's sideways?
That's
Okay.
I thought like nothing, like down there.
Okay, so what did I get a point for here?
I didn't know about that.
Not interested. Okay, fair enough. So mark it. Do we have a pen? Mark it down. I got 3 points.
I didn't
so
know
4.
about that, but if you, now you tell me, it's
Yeah,
like, I'm not
pens, yeah.
surprised because I see all those trucks always like, taking those
Yeah.
soda bottles.
It's a really good thing. It's like, it is good. I think I have maybe like heard it before, but like, yeah, it's good.
But again, example of one of those policies where it's like
Yeah.
the soju companies might not like it.
Yeah.
The government's like, yeah, if the people don't exist for you, you exist for them.
No, I think they'll love it. They'll love it because they won't have to pay for a bottle every time. They'll be.
But
super
from the
happy.
marketing standpoint, that's why actually there was a
Yeah.
controversy. Jinro, one of the big brands,
Yeah.
recently went back to a blue bottle of a different
Yeah,
shape.
and-
From a marketing standpoint, now they stand out, but some people don't like it because it's basically they're breaking the agreement.
But they're selling so well. Like they're
That's why-
everywhere. Yeah, you're right.
We actually, Edgy and I kind
Yeah.
of just said like we're not going to buy that one. Just
Right.
because the idea of like
Company
you're being a
principle.
dick. Like
Yeah.
there was this agreement that we are not going to make waste. So let's.
That little frog pisses me off though. Like, I go get YouTube adverts and from that thing, and the frog's there, and the woman's like, the frog's picking up the woman. She's like, "Woo!" Like, have you seen it? Oh God, I need to get YouTube Premium. It drives me crazy.
Okay, your turn. Let's hear it. What's your fact?
Mine's terrible. I forgot I had to do this until I was on the subway. What was it? Do you know that women in a lifetime blink twice more than men?
Koreans or like
All women.
All women.
all women?
It's not Korean related, like, but it's
I believe that. That's the response to when we say stupid things and they go,
yeah.
"Are you serious?" Okay.
Hang on, so it could be about like other things like
Anything.
Jesus Christ.
It could be like little
Yeah.
known fact. My middle name is this, and it's just up to us to judge if it's
Do
interesting.
you know my middle name?
I don't even think I know your last
Probably
name.
starts with
I don't
probably
know.
starts with a V.
No, I
does
know
it?
your last name
V,
now.
V,
I don't know
V.
your last name. I just thought it was Hamilton.
Yeah, I'll keep that quiet. I don't want my last name.
Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3.
That's right to the camera.
Yeah.
What's the right one?
Okay,
Yeah.
again, like
Okay. I'm gonna say. Well, you go first.
I'd say it was interesting, but I would say that I was expecting something about Korea. So
That's fair. There are no
I
rules.
was disappointed.
I'm the opposite. I thought it was little known. I just didn't find it that interesting.
Oh, good.
Please, we have to make clearer rules, and also next time I'll bring also a leaderboard, and we can keep up the point system, and we also have to find like what's
I think there
gonna
should be
happen
Yeah.
There should be a
when we lose
consequence,
or win.
a shot
There
or
should,
something.
there should be
Yeah.
consequences,
Yeah.
and we have to define rules better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, mine. Okay, I'll go for, I don't care about you guys, or whether you find it interesting or not. For the audience, there's something, I don't know, have you lived in an apartment, Daniel?
No.
No. Did you know that there are speakers in the room that like broadcast announcement
Directly into your home.
directly in your home?
Like
And-
1984.
And you cannot turn it off.
Like Big Brother.
Like Big Brothers, like you're, barely woke up like 9 a.m. Like there would be someone like speaking in your house. Like the first time that happened to me in Korea, I was like literally like I heard something, and it depends which like how old your house is, but sometimes the speaker are really shitty, and I was like I could hear something. It's like did I let something on like the radio or the computer? And I was like where does it come from? The first apartment I lived in Korea, I was like what the fuck?
Right.
And I told my wife like there's someone speaking in our house, and she said like that's the announcement speaker.
Yeah.
So they would say like, or today we're like cleaning the parking lot, so please move your car. But
Right.
even though it's so dumb because like it's so advanced in technology, sometimes Korea, and like we have all those like little like smart panel in our house that give us like how much electricity and water
Yeah.
we used, and we can like do so many things. I can even like pick up the phone, like if someone like ring downstairs, I can like call, like I can answer when I'm like
On the
in
toilet.
the toilet.
Yep.
On the toilet. There's those features, like why didn't they figure out a way to, I don't know, send messages directly to our phone?
Yeah.
Like they have our information, phone numbers, and everything.
Isn't this fact going to be like just a short little fact?
Sorry, that was that's it. That
Is
was
it
just to give
interesting
a little
bits going
context.
down?
Okay. And I
So-
actually know about that because when I was in your house before that we did that driving thing,
Yeah,
one of those came on and it freaked me out.
that was the
Yeah.
first time you heard.
It freaked me out. Okay.
What is it? Is it?
Did you find it interesting? Do you think it's little known? All right. 1, 2, 3.
Bastard.
Oh no, I think it was a little known. I was shocked
'Cause I live
when
in
I
a-
first heard
Yeah.
it. It blew me away, and I
Yeah.
think it's interesting because that to me is just such an invasion of privacy
Yeah.
that
No.
you can't turn it off.
I'll
Like if it's a
change it.
standard
I'll
thing.
change
Is
it.
in the wrong spot?
I'm gonna change
Like
it. Little
someone-
known, but it is interesting. It is interesting because you'd never get that anywhere else probably in the world.
Yeah.
But I do want to say one thing, which is because normally it's for an announcements in the apartment and stuff. Like a couple of months ago, suddenly it's Sunday morning about 9 o'clock. This freaking Joshi came on. This guy started selling fish. I don't know,
Love it.
He must have bribed, I reckon, bribed the security people or something, and they talked for ages. Like when you go into a supermarket. yeah, like that. When you go into a supermarket, he's giving his sales pitch over the microphone, and I was like, what is going on? What is this guy doing? And I was like, I was so annoyed. Anyway, I walked out. I had to go somewhere, so I was already awake, thankfully. But I walked outside, and there was all of these old women walking around with bags of blooming fish, and I was like, they must have been super happy because they got I think it was crab actually. They got it for really cheap. But I was like the only one really annoyed because I felt like it's invading my
You
privacy.
are just like
and-
Oscar the Grouch. You just a guy comes offering discount crab at your door, and then you just want
I
to
know.
rain on everyone's parade.
right? Yeah, don't get my bloody
Yeah.
crab.
Well, that wraps up little known facts, and I think that'll probably wrap us for the day. I guess maybe we can give an update on like the next few months, right? The holiday filming schedule might be a little bit different. I think a few of us Valentine's going to be visiting family in December in Switzerland. So do we think we're going to get another?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have one more recording before that happens, because by the end of November, I think we can meet one more time.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then I'll probably be like Christmas vacation, and we'll probably have the next episode in January or
Yeah.
something. Maybe we won't have anything in December.
Yeah.
No, I think it's like maybe end of November will be best with the
Yeah.
bar. December, fingers crossed. Hopefully, it'll be a busy period. So hopefully they won't cancel Christmas this time like last year. So fingers crossed.
So we'll have one more
Good.
show end of November, and then Christmas vacation, and I'll start posting those videos on YouTube from today, actually, and release the weekly. So like those small segments of our previous recording, and then the full show every month.
And this will mark wrapping the show up now marks 2/3 of the way to our initial goal, which was beating our wife's projection of how many episodes we do. They
Yeah,
thought
sure.
3. We're almost there, guys.
Yeah,
we
it's true.
almost did it.
Yeah, even if no one watches, it's
Yeah.
quite good anyways. It's
Yeah.
good. Yeah, good chance to meet up and stuff.
All right. So I think with that, we'll sign off for the day. Thanks for everyone who joined us. And
Too bad that Louis' wife joined us only now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh god, she's awake? What the hell? Oh yeah, she's going to buy a Hoover, I think.
well, I guess since she's here, she missed the point when you called her.